Phoebe. Phoebe, are we rolling?
Yep.
Sit, Phoebe. This is Phoebe. This is Chopper. This is Bailey. And this is Abby or Abigail. And this is the roadmap to success. Now, in this session, we've spent a lot of time talking about rules, structure, and really, I feel a little bit, he's the old man, and we have really 3 females here in the house. And they kind of were knocking him around a little bit, and he's just an old guy. And so one of the rules I talked about was not allowing dogs on the furniture, but for him, he's maybe the one that I allow on the furniture because we want to give him some artificial authority. And if he wants to get up here, I would allow him up, but I wouldn't allow the other dogs. That's not an invitation. Sit, Phoebe. Okay, so let's talk about what we went over. The video above this one talks about the technique to stop dogs from jumping on people, guests when they come inside, and I have an addendum on that to also show them how they can teach the dog to calm itself down. Now, I'm disagreeing when she's putting her paw on me because I'm not inviting her. A lot of people think, well, you're being mean. Well, I don't mind the dog being on my lap. If I invited Chopper up, I wanted him up here. I didn't ask her to come up, and she's taking that privilege. So I wanted anything your dog is doing in your presence that you don't specifically disagree with, as far as they're concerned, you're cool with. So make sure you disagree and disagree right away. If you don't want the dog on the carpet and you wait for the dog to take 5 steps before you disagree, then they think the 5th step is what you're disagreeing with. So we want to make sure that we're really as crisp and precise with our disagreement as we possibly can. Okay, so we started off talking about exercise. Now these dogs are all 11 and she's 13.
Yeah.
And so Abigail is about 1.5 years, so she's still a puppy. She needs more energy burnt up, off. So for her, I showed the Guardians, she was chasing a laser. Sit. Only say it once. If the dog doesn't comply, then don't give them. So the other thing I'd like the Guardians to do is to create competition. Sit. Sit. So I have one reward. She sat, but she sat after she did. Now, I could reward her too, because that was pretty close, but I'd like the Guardians to practice what I call coffees for closers. So every once in a while, pull out a treat and ask the dogs to do something that all the dogs can do. Whoever does it first gets a reward. Whoever does it second, third, or fourth doesn't get anything, unless 2 of them do it at pretty much the same time. Then I would give both those dogs the reward. And you can't put your paw on me. And again, it's okay for the dog to do that, but in her case, she's trying to challenge for it, and she's kind of putting her paw on me, and I don't want to agree with that. So giving her a treat would actually reward that. So I'd like the Guardians to practice this a couple times a day. Just pull out a treat and give them a come, sit, crash, whatever it is, and pay the dogs that do it right away, and don't give anything to the other dogs. No corrections, no reward, no chastising. Just you don't get the reward. After a while, the other dogs will start now having a motivation to be obedient, and they'll start complying faster and faster, and then competing to be who can be the most obedient. That's right now where they're trying to be the least obedient. Okay, so we talked about exercise for her. Another one that we could do is throwing a treat to the bottom of the stairs. And then I call it a doggy stairmaster. I throw the treat to the bottom of the stairs, and then I give the dog. Yeah, you're being pretty greedy. I want to give Chopper one, but he's a little bit too settled. Sit. So again, if they don't do what I want, they don't get the reward. I'm not going to ask it multiple times. The more you say it, the less you mean it. So for her, another form of exercise is fetch. The Guardians are like, but she doesn't drop. Well, I showed the Guardians how to teach a dog to drop. So what you want to do is when the dog has a low value item, which means it's an item they can have at any point in their mouth, you hold the treat against the dog's nose, and they'll try to take it with the object in their mouth. Just hold it here. Don't give them any commands. As soon as the dog spits it out, then pop the treat in your mouth and say the word drop. This is not something you're going to rep a lot. You're just going to wait until when your dog has something in his mouth, then quietly pull out a treat and go over and hold it. And then you're qualifying or marking it with the word drop. And after a while, you say drop, and the dog will just spit things out. After a while, the dog will actually come to you and spit it out automatically because knows that's going to get you to throw it. Now, one of the other things the Guardian might want to do is give her a eye fetch, or the one that I prefer for outside is called a Go Dog Go. And so it's about $160. It's a machine that allows the dog to play fetch with itself. So I think she would really like that. We have a nice yard, and it's a pretty consistent arc. I would actually put it up here. So she's got to get it, run up the stairs, put it in there, and then boom. And then she runs down and gets it again. So now she's running the stairs and she's playing fetch. That'd be a great way to exercise her. I also talked to the Guardian by keeping an exercise journal. So write down the number of times and the time that you did all this for all the exercise for a day, and then give her a letter grade at the end of the day. If it's anything other than an A, the next day play around, give her maybe, instead of doing 20 up downs the stairs, maybe we do 25. Or it's a really low grade, instead of doing the stairs 25 3 times a day, maybe we do 25 4 or 5 times a day. And it's best sprinkled throughout the day. All right, let me see, what else did we went over? We went over rules as I'm watching one of the dogs, Bailey, just jumped on the couch. Now, Bailey not only wants to be on the couch, she wants to be up here. So I recommend not allowing the dogs on the furniture for a while, but right now we don't have the X mats, which is what I usually recommend people get. So I would recommend waiting until you get those. Now, at the same time, I always teach the dog to get off, and the way I do that is just tossing a treat on the floor and say off. Anytime the dog gets a treat put in their mouth, they should hear the command word and only the command word after the treat goes in their mouth. So not good off, just off. And not off, just off. The more words we say, the harder it is for the dogs to understand. So I also went over, I didn't go over this here, but I recommend the Guardians get a dog bed. I like to get ones on Groupon. I like to get white, light cream or light gray and with no pattern on it. Dogs' eyes are not very good for detail or for color. They're great for movement, which is why we throw it as opposed to placing it. And she's like, oh, I'll come back right up. So basically, another one that I do is directional commands. If I want the dog to leave this area, well, I first want to teach them to leave the area. So what I usually do is I tear the treat in half, and I would throw the treat there. When the dog goes out and gets it, I would say the word out. Then I would take the other half and throw it again there. And then I would go on that side and throw it out twice. And do the kitchen, the dining room area, all the areas you want the dog to leave. And I would do this with one dog at a time. And then after I've done all the doorways and all the areas of the house, then I repeat the whole circuit. But this time I throw the treat into the kitchen or into the dining room, and I say the word kitchen or dining room, whatever the name of each room is. This way I can actually communicate to the dog, I want you to leave the room or I want you to go to the room. Chopper's feeling comfortable now, so he'll take a treat. If he won't take a treat, that means he's too stimulated or too worked up or too worried. I think all these dogs think that they're in charge of everybody, and that's what I forgot. I was supposed to go over with for the greeting for the humans. So now we're going to look at the timestamp on this video, and when you tell people to watch this video, tell them to start at whatever the mark is right now. So if you're a guest that's coming over to the house, what we want you to do is to help the Guardians teach the dogs that being calm does not cause the humans to come in or to give attention. Any attention is validating for a dog, even if it's bad attention. So if you're yelling at the dog to correct them, that's as validating as petting them or rewarding them. And dogs typically get excited at certain times, especially when somebody comes to the door, because somebody's about to come in. And then I'm excited, and she's getting more excited. And it's hard when you have 4 dogs that they all get really excited. So what I'd like you to do is call or text the Guardians before you're going to get here. So that gives the Guardians the ability to put 3 of the dogs outside or in the kennel or in the other room. Then what we're going to do is the door is going to be open. We want you to come to the door, and if the dog didn't see you, just knock or ring the doorbell. And put your foot up against the door, because especially for Abigail, she pounds at the door. We don't want it to pop open. So the dog's going to be all excited, and it'll be only one dog at a time. So you're not going to say a word. You're just going to wait at the door, and you're just going to wait with your hands at your side, wait for the dog to calm down. And at first, you're going to be barking and jumping up, and just don't say a word. And the Guardians are not going to even come to the door. And so the door will be open. You'll be able to unlock it when you're ready. But that's why we put your foot in there. And then basically, after a while, the dog's like, are you coming in or what? And the energy is going to be up here, and then it's going to come down and down and down. When it gets pretty calm, the dogs have like this sort of the dog has this sort of energy. Reach for the handle. As soon as you reach for the handle, they'll start wiggling and jump up and barking in. Pull your hand back and just sit back down. The Guardians might be nice and leave you some lemonade or something out there to drink. Pull it out and be very casual. And no response. So what we're saying to the dogs is when you're calm, that starts the process of me entering. And as soon as you get excited, that stops the process of me entering. So eventually, basically, you'll have a whole bunch of starts and stops. At first, you might only, if this is the handle, you might reach this far the first time. Second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. When you're doing it, start jiggling it, but don't actually open it. And jiggle and pull your hand back. Jiggle, pull your hand back. And keep doing that until the dog's like sitting or calm or is not barking and not reacting. Then you open it a crack. If the dog starts getting excited and rushes you, close it. So we're basically breaking down the doorway entry into a ritual and breaking it down to individual steps. And as soon as the dog shows any excitement, we're going to stop. Now, when we stop is important. Dogs have 10 levels of energy. 10 is as crazy as a dog can get. 1 is just starting that transition. Well, if we wait for the dog to get at level 8 energy, it's going to take a long time to settle down. So that's why you have to be very precise with your stoppage. So you start reaching, as soon as the dog, you probably will not reach the handle the first several times you reach for it. Pull back and just wait. If the dog's really excited, you turn and give your back to the window and look out into the yard. Eventually, the dog, through enough repetition, will learn as soon as I'm calm and sitting, the process of entering occurs. Once you can actually get inside, if the dog jumps up on you, freeze, raise your arms up out of the dog's reach and just look up and just become still. We want you to become boring. So after a minute or two, or after whenever the dog jumps down, then tell it to sit or lay down or do something else. So when it jumps up on you and you pet it when it gets down, that's ideal, but then the dog might jump up to get that attention again. So we want a third step. So the dog jumps up, it causes the human to freeze. We wait for the dog to jump down. When it jumps down, then we tell it to sit. Then when it sits, then we reward her to give it attention. So it's an extra step. So we're teaching the dog that when humans come over and you're excited, you stop. Oh, I'm the one that's stopping the humans from coming in. Why didn't you tell me? Well, we had to do it through a lot of repetitions. So practice with neighbors and people who are nearby. And once they come in, have them come and hang out with the dog. And at any point the dog starts getting excited, have them disengage and stop petting the dog. And at this point, the dogs probably are not going to be on the line of the furniture. So he don't want, and he hasn't bit, well, he bit me a little bit when we were trying to put him on my lap. But besides that, we've been buddies. And so he, I think, is really an old dog. He's insecure. He doesn't think the humans are listening to him. People come in anyways, and they don't listen to him, and they try to pet him when he really doesn't want to be petted. So he's just like me. If somebody keeps on grabbing my butt, I say, please don't grab my butt, and they keep on grabbing my butt. Eventually, I'm going to raise my retort, and I might shove them. I might keep them in front of me. I might punch them. I might do something else. And it's appropriate for me to do that because my butt, I got to do with my butt what I want. All right? And so same thing for the dog. Now, he thinks he's in charge. So do all the other dogs. I think this is a result of a lack of rules. So we'll talk about that in a second, but keep on repping this, and that's what the guest needs to hear, basically following that. And when the dogs eventually come and they're calm, then the guest can reach over and offer a treat or offer a hand. But if you ever reach for a dog and the dog turns its head to the side, that's the dog's way of saying, I don't want you to pet me. If you listen to the dog and pull your arm back and don't try to make it sound like you're a good person or anything else, eventually the dog will this person hears me. I can trust this person. And what we want the dogs to do is practice having guests come in while the dogs are being calm. So first we're going to do it with one dog, just switch up the dogs and keep doing this until eventually Greta, or not Greta, Abby. Sit. Sit. Whenever possible, try to pet your dog under the chin. And I use this motion to put the dog into a sit and an arc over their head. And as soon as they sit, I lower it, let them lick it off my finger, and then I tickle under their chin. I always do that. That way, later on, I can go like this and put the dog into a sit, even if I don't have a treat in my hand. Okay, so I'd like you to practice with each dog separately until that dog is getting pretty good. And when people come to the door, they're just calm and sits there. Once you get two dogs that do that, then bring those two dogs together and practice a guest coming in with those two dogs. Then eventually with the third, and then probably eventually with you, buddy. Yes. And that little jump, if you notice he jumped a little bit, that's cortisol in his blood. That's a stress hormone. And that's probably a result of him. Oh, that was a collar.
I wondered too. It's like, what the hell is that noise?
She's scratching her collar. But that becomes a physical manifestation. Dogs, people who are in a stressful situation too long, have cortisol in their system too long, they develop PTSD. Dogs can absolutely develop PTSD. And so the more that we enforce rules and structure, the more the dogs start to see the humans acting like leaders, the less they feel like it's their responsibility. Now we can set her up for success by exercising her before the guests come over, before we do these exercises. You probably also exercise these guys, just won't be as much as you need to for her. All right, so some of the rules we went over: not being allowed to be with on the furniture, number one. Definitely, and after the furniture with an invitation and only for good behavior. So Bailey kept on coming up here, and then she was trying to go up here. Well, if I give you the privilege of being up here, don't try to show everyone up by getting a more height. So every time she jumped up here, then she lost the privilege of being here. She had to go all the way down to the floor. I would recommend that once you get to the point where you invite the dogs in the furniture, just because you invite one dog does not mean you have to invite them all. And if Chopper's behaving very well, or I want to snuggle with him, just because the other dogs want it doesn't mean they get it. They might have to do something to earn it. But again, with an invitation only for good behavior. Get the X mats, letter X, M-A-T-S. Get those on Amazon or Chewy. They're about $11 a piece, and just put them there every time you get up, and put them under the couch when you get up. And that way, it's a seat holder. After a while, maybe you'll have to have 6 to begin with. After like 2 months, take one of them out and have 5 of them. Reposition them. And then next month, another one. So gradually, they're disappearing. Abby, come here. We'll give you one of these to keep you occupied. Bully stick. Yes, that will work. Okay, so eventually the dogs, when I get to the point where you only have a couple, I tear them in half and then put one on each cushion. But gradually they dissipate. The dog just gets in a habit of not getting on the couch. Now also get the dog, watch the videos on my website, go to doggonproblems.com, click on dog training tips on the right side of the page on a desktop, or if you're on your phone at the bottom of the page, there's a search box, type in dog bed, and it'll have a couple of videos that'll show you how to teach your dog to go to the dog bed on command. If they sleep with you, I would say that you guys get in bed, put your PJs on, do your ritual, then invite them on the bed the way you want. I would bring him up first, let him situate where he wants because he's the older dog, then invite them up one at a time based on their behavior. She's really protesting, then I invite Bailey next. I'm guessing Bailey probably is going to be the protester the most. So then Bailey gets invited last, so she gets the last position. So if you're polite and nice, then you get first dibs. Or in this case, he's an old guy, and we're going to respect him because he's an old guy. I also went over, dogs shouldn't be in the kitchen when we're preparing food, around the dining room when we're feeding them. We shouldn't give any people food to dogs. That confuses the heck out of them. It's breaking a moral rule they know they shouldn't do. The Guardian said that the dogs are a little bit chunky, so you might want to go to the Green Spot. I gave them a business card for that. It's my favorite store in Omaha. They study animal nutrition. The women who own it are awesome. I'd also like to see the Guardians feed them a structured way. Another video can search for structured feeding. Basically, I would feed him first. Then I'd probably feed the rest of the dogs in the order to rank. So Abby is going to get fed last. So she's going to see all the other dogs having more rank or status. And watch the video. I'm not going to go through all the details, but eating is the most important activity for dogs. So if you have dominion over that, it really helps elevate you as an authority figure. Let me see what else. Now for him, because he's not, he had some blown ACL, so he doesn't like people touching his back legs, and he's just old and cranky. So if we have, when the guests come in, once we're inside, if the dogs come up and they're nice and relaxed, yeah, please be comfortable. Hold the treat out to the side, and if he won't take it, the next thing the guests can do for him, and we'll get back to rules, what I did to warm him up to me is I pulled out a treat, and again, it'd be best if there's only one dog in here for that, and that was great. That was a little jealousy. So that's a good illustration of how that can be a motivator. So he was about where the camera was. I took a treat out and I threw it halfway distance. He wouldn't come that far. So I threw it another one even closer to him and then even closer. Eventually he took one step and took it and then walked away. And I made it available. I didn't tell him to get it. And then he came back and got the second treat, and then that's as far as he would go. So I kept on throwing treats. He took a step or two towards me and walked away. After a while, he got the other two treats, and then he started lingering. So the idea is we're breadcrumbing him there, but we're not petting him. We're not telling him to do it. We're making the treats available. He gets a positive reinforcement every time he does it, but he's doing it on his speed. And eventually I was able to hold out a treat, and he took it from my hand. And like I said, he hasn't tried to bite me once. And the Guardian's like, normally people are like walking around backwards because he's an ankle biter. Well, he's probably all worked up. People aren't listening to him. He thinks he's in charge. These new humans aren't listening, so I'm gonna have to nip at them because they're not doing what I'm telling them to do. He also is a marker, and probably is coming from him being old and a little bit infirm, but also being more insecure about his position. And I'm going to go pee on everything because all the rest of these dogs are females. If other dog comes in, I want them to smell that there's a dog in charge around here because my humans don't appear to be acting like leaders. Well, the more the humans enforce these rules, the more the dogs are going to see the humans as leaders, and then he feels like it's not necessary for me to mark everything because the humans have it under control. So I'd like the Guardians to feed him first, go through the structured feeding, then feed them. Those two probably could be interchangeable based on who's behaving the best. And then he eats last, and come up with a fun command word for each dog to eat. I do that with passive training. So let's say his word is lasagna. So every time for 3 months he takes his first bite of food, we say the word lasagna. When the rest of the three hear the word lasagna, there's no food in their mouth, so it doesn't mean the same thing. But when he hears it, boy, it means I get to eat. So come up with a fun word for each dog to feed them, because I have 4 dogs as well, and it really makes feeding them easier. Structured feeding will be difficult for a couple of days, but within a week, they pretty much have it. And then every time you feed them, they get in a habit of doing that. Abby, boy, you are just persistent, aren't you? Sit. Okay, let me see. We also went over petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is this. If she comes over and nudges me like that, and I pet her, she's telling me what to do. That was a kiss. But if she tells me what to do and I do it, then that validates that she's in charge of me. So for petting with a purpose, what I do is, Abigail, let's say she nudged me, I would say sit. This is the part where you sit, yes. Then I pet her on the chin and I say sit, and only the word sit. And I can pet as much or as little as I want after I pet her once. So what I'm saying is when you tell the human what to do, nothing happens. But if the human tells you what to do and you do it, you get a reward. After a while, she'll come and start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. Now, remember to use the watchword paycheck if someone's petting without a purpose. And that person has to stop petting, tell the dog to sit. And if it's already sitting, ask him to sit over here. Ask it to lay down. It just has to do with it to change its state unless it prepays for the attention. And then you say sit or whatever it is. Paycheck just means I suspect you may be petting without a purpose, so the person who is petting would stop. So I'm petting her, somebody says paycheck, they assume that I forgot. I stop and I say, sit. And when she sits, if she did, I would pet her and then say sit, and then I could tell the person, I asked her to do it the right way, you just missed it. Now, I'd also like the guardians to start withholding their affection for their dogs, which can be hard because they're all super cute, but if they give it attention willy-nilly or on demand, that can raise a petulance. So I want them to start to feel like they're earning that affection. So they have to sit or come or lay down or do something like that to earn that affection. That's my propel, not yours. Another rule is they should sit before we let them in or out the door. Right now, she pounds at the door as her way to get asking to come in, because when she does that, her guardians probably go up and go to the door immediately. So next time she pauses the door, just ignore. But when she wants to go out, go to the door, tell her to sit once. Sit! Like that. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down, look at your phone, read a magazine, wait 1 minute, hang in there, buddy, and then go back to the door and tell her to sit again. And if it's all the dogs, and let's say Chopper sits, then I open the door and let Chopper out, and the other 3 don't get the privilege. So I keep on double length of time. First I walk away for 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. I keep double the length. And anytime the dog sits, then I open the door for that dog as fast as I can as soon as their butt hits the ground. After a while, the dog will go sit at the door as its way of saying, I'd like to go outside. So that could be a crash or chill. But that's okay. So Phoebe just laid across her without an invitation, so she started to push her off, but she did lay down. So we can kind of, at that point, it's a kind of a fork in the road. We can pet her for laying down and use passive training, or we can say, I didn't ask you to come on me, so we ask you to get off or get off the couch. Let me see. I'm trying to think, what else do we go over that we want to go over? Potty training. Well, first of all, drop. When she has a low value item, just make sure you hold that treat in front of her mouth, wait for her to drop, and then pop the treat in her mouth and wait. Say drop. Potty training, come up with a new command word. Go outside and follow each dog. And the 3 times they're most likely to go. Right when they wake up, 5 minutes after eating, 15 minutes after the start of playtime. I also, when I potty train a dog, take it out once an hour. So I go outside and I kind of follow the dog around. I have a treat with me. And as soon as the dog pees or poops, or starts to pee or poop, I say the word business. This is the word I use. As soon as the dog gets done, I'll talk about that in a sec, then I pop a treat in the dog's mouth and I say the word business a second time. Now, Phoebe was just growling because she came over and she was sniffing my bag, and Phoebe's like, if anybody's going to get that bag, it's going to be me. But again, that's an illustration of why we have the dogs on the furniture, that, especially on top of you, that makes it, I'm claiming the human. Yeah. So if that's the case, then she should have to get down immediately, but make sure you don't push her directly towards Abby. We don't want to start a fight. So if Abby's here, push the dog that way. What we're telling the dog is, hey, if you growl, or, growling is not aggression, but it can also, hey, you're not in charge of the couch. I can take care of Abigail on my own. And like I mentioned to the guardians earlier, anything our dog's doing when we pet is what we're reinforcing, but anything the dog does in our presence we don't disagree with, we're giving 2 thumbs up to. So make sure you disagree immediately. There we go. Bailey likes to hump a pillow, and the guardian didn't say anything. Well, she's not doing it sexually. She's trying to take out her frustration or whatever it is, but it was on the couch and it's a nice pillow, so I disagreed. So make sure you're doing that right away. All right. Anything else you can think of?
No, that was...
I'm just laughing because I normally don't put anybody's faces in but mine, but that's okay. That was the Guardian's partner. I just do it because some people are like, I don't like how I look.
I know.
All right, well, and make sure you take care of the little guy here, because again, and the Guardians are doing that, but it being the older dog, we just need to give them a little bit of extra space and clearance. And sometimes giving the older dog a place that it can get away from the other dogs is helpful, because he's old and probably needs to sleep a little bit. So every once in a while, take him in your bedroom during the day and give him an hour just to chill out on his own, especially if you're having a tough day. But make sure you exercise your dogs before guests come over, before you have a pool party. Exercising your dogs is really underrated, but it really will help put your dog in a position to succeed or amplify their unwanted behaviors. Well, this is Chopper, who has decided that he's done. Yes, we're gonna wait. We're wrapping up right now, buddy, and then I'll give you one more treat, and then you can go where you want to go. And the other dogs are out of the shop. We're not gonna pan for them, but we also have Bailey and Phoebe and Abigail. And this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.